Good evening.
Good evening.
Uh,
Good evening.
we are talking about your book, The Revolutionaries Shed Their Blood for India's Independence, Part
हाँ जी,
1.
हाँ जी,
So, in this series, now we are discussing today about chapter 11, V.D. Savarkar.
हाँ जी,
So, Savarkar is a very popular figure, and
yes.
some people consider him to be controversial also. So, would you like to throw a correct picture about Mr. V.D. Savarkar?
Actually, V.D. Savarkar was a genius and revolutionary.
Mhm.
He was he belonged to Pune in Maharashtra,
Hmm.
and he was born in 1883.
Okay.
The Chapekar brothers had shot down Plague Commissioner Rand on 22 June 1897 में,
Hmm.
and Savarkar was very happy over this moment, and he also gave a Jagrati, the awakening of revolt within him. Uh, he opened a society, Mitra Mela, in 1899, and then ultimately college also. But ultimately, he preferred to go to England. So Bal Gangadhar Tilak recommended his name to Shyamji Krishna Verma for a scholarship and his place in India House in London. So he started in June 1906, हाँ, समुद्री जहाज से जैसे वो गए हैं, और he landed in London
The age of 23. At
at
the
the
age
age
of
of, yes, that
20.
is right. हाँ,
Uh,
17 और 23 साल की उम्र में वो he reached London in Indian House. और इंडिया हाउस को he had converted into a revolutionary house. So much he was had a thinking about the revolution and about Bharat Mata and getting the country freed uh, from the shackles of British rulers. So first of all, he devoted much to the British Library and Museum archives to read the fighting of the war incident of 1857 and brought out the book which we used to call Gadar and British used to call it mutiny. And
what,
Savarkar gave
what
the
is the
name.
difference? What is the difference between mutiny and Gadar?
Gadar means war, open war. It's a Punjabi word. Gadar means that everybody is involved in the war. Mutiny means that it was a mutiny only by the soldiers, not the local people.
Okay.
But Veer Savarkar gave it the meaning of the Indian War of Independence.
Mhm.
As I told you earlier, this could not be printed in the British regime. Therefore, he packed this packet in giving a title of Child Toys, Kickbacks, something like that, sent it up beyond the border of England and got it published. Once it was published, and it was May May 1907. By that time, he had completed his book. The British on 6th May 1907 came out with the news that the brave people of the 50 years ago, this week, an empire was saved by the deeds of heroism. British called it a brave deed of heroism by their soldiers. But this news hit Veer Savarkar uh, in his bottom, uh, right in the heart of Veer Savarkar. And he was waiting for May 10 when the Jawans of Meerut had revolted against the British Army for fighting independence. So on 10th May, he decorated the India House. It appeared as if we are in India, and called the young generation of his age group and filled them with enthusiasm and patriotism. There was one lady, Dhan Devi. She announced a cash prize and honorific of Yare Hind, Friends of India ka. She gave a slogan or a title to the patriots. And Madanlal Tingda was also one of them. And they issued what you call, which you attach with your pocket with a pin, badge of honor to the martyrs of 1857.
Mhm.
And one Harnam Singh, he was a very beloved student of a British lady principal. So he bore a badge of honors to the heroes of 1857 and reached the class. When the principal told, "What is this?" He said that this is an honor to my martyr who died for my country. Oh, she again challenged, either remove this badge or get out of the class. Okay, and I can get out of the class. But I think everywhere in the world, the patriots are honored by the people. So that way they created a little. In 1907, he celebrated, Veer Savarkar celebrated the uh, Golden Jubilee of 1857 war of independence. Similarly, in 2008, he
Mhm.
brought out a pamphlet of 4 pages singing songs of praise for the heroes and martyrs of 1857. Its title was "O Martyrs," and even the British felt that that was the best poem in the name of patriotism. So Mangal Pandey was so much encouraged by these deeds of bravery and by the invoking of patriotism by Veer Savarkar. He said, if can produce 100 Madanlals, while 100 Madanlals together cannot make one Veer Savarkar. Ultimately, inspired by the patriotism taught by Veer Savarkar, Madanlal Tingda uh, shot dead Sir Cousin Wiley on July 1, 1909 in London. So, in the Jahangir Hall of Imperial Institute, he was, uh, say, 23rd July 1909, and he was awarded a death punishment, and the date of death was fixed as August 17, 1909. In between, many delegations of Indians reached London who were of the thought process of Mahatma Gandhi. They said that he had done wrong, he had done this, he had done this. So ultimately, the day of execution, one day before the execution, even in the brothers of family relatives of Madhulal Tingra sought an opportunity to meet Madhulal Tingra in the jail. But Madhulal Tingra refused to meet his own brother and relatives, saying that they are the touts of the British people. And one day before the death execution, Veer Savarkar met this Madhulal Tingra in the jail. He wrote a very encouraging and praiseworthy song, Challenge, titled as Challenge. It's printed on the book, by which he said that to die for the nation is to teach the future generations to die for the country. and ultimately he gave two messages, that he should be given a mirror to see that he is dying happily and not worried. And secondly, no uh, British Christ people should touch his dead body. And the this was got printed by Veer Savarkar in the next day in the Tribune when he was to be executed. And even the British this Churchill, he shared that this Dhingra's last words are finest ever made in the name of patriotism. See at the patriotism and the uh, thought process of the revolutionaries, that Madanlal Dhingra said that his goods be sold and the money earned be used for some national cause. Now, coming back to V.D. Savarkar, so Veer Savarkar was praised by Lala Lajpat Rai, no, sorry, Lala Hardyal, who had reached France, and even Shyamji Krishan Verma, he was in France, and this Veer Savarkar had gone to France, and they were very happy to receive him, and again they were very happy to have him with them. In the meantime, the pistols which were sent by Veer Savarkar through a uh, normal prisoner to Bombay, with one pistol, the of district magistrate Nasik was murdered, in which this Veer Savarkar was implicated. And Savarkar received this information when he was in Paris. So Lala Hardyal and Shyamji Krishan Verma, they were telling Veer Savarkar not to return to London, as he would face lot of difficulties. But it was in his heart that when his near and dear ones they are suffering, he should not avoid. The thought process in this Veer Savarkar, that he cannot avoid his own arrest when his own near and dear ones are being arrested. So he insisted for being back in London. The moment he reached London in March 1910, he was arrested from the railway station, taken to the prisoners, and where the British people had received the warrant from Bombay Court, District Court, quoted on a ship. February 22, ultimately he was taken to the ship. Somewhere in June, the ships left British territory, and for some difficulty, it landed near France, Amsterdam, and so ship had sailed on July 1, 1910 for India. When it reached near this uh, Amsterdam, the Veer Savarkar, he put a cloth on the glasses and jumped down through the uh, pot in the sea. He swam and then reached the territory of France. But the British coast guards who were on the ship, they ran after him, called him uh, thief, something like that. And they brought him back to the sea, and he was kept tight and tied so many, which caused extreme pain to Veer Savarkar. But he was brought to Bombay. Bombay, but in the meantime, the trial was, three cases were uh, instituted against him. In one he was discharged. The other two cases he was sentenced for life imprisonment in each case. So he was ultimately sent to Madras side for being deported to Port Blair, and the people they met on the way to him, and they were very proud of this Veer Savarkar, and ultimately he was boarded in the ship uh, in a very bad condition and tied very strongly, by which he could neither wake up, neither could sleep, nor could sit, nor could lie down. So very difficult situation. Ultimately, he reached Port Blair with his own baggage on on head, one shoulder, and the other shoulder like utensils, iron utensils. He remained there for, he bore all kinds of tortures from the British authorities, and he was returned to India only in, he was deported there in June 1911, and he came back to the Indian territory back in 2000, 1921. Means for 10 years, the longest period which he spent in the cellular jail was by, and his brother G.D. Savarkar, who was sent to Andamans prior to Veer Savarkar. And they, for 2 years, they remained in different barracks of cellular jail, but they couldn't see each other. So therefore, the life in cellular jail could only be felt than explained. Very difficult. That he did so much for the motherland. And look at the uh, condition of the patriots when he came back in Andaman in 1921. In 1948, Mahatma Gandhi was shot dead by Nathuram Godse, and Veer Savarkar was also involved in that case. Ultimately, the magistrate, the one man who was made approver, he told that they had gone to Veer Savarkar only for asking that they would raise a protest there, but they were never told that they had the intention to kill or to shoot Mahatma Gandhi. Even there being no evidence, Veer Savarkar was still involved and kept in the jail in Red Fort. And ultimately, the magistrate, the session judge, acquitted him, and his acquittal was upheld by the Lahore High Court. I saw those papers in 1998 when I was a joint registrar in the High Court, but I was ignorant about it that I should take down a copy of the statement of Nathuram Godse. But later on, that record was demanded by the Supreme Court, and that record is now lying in the Honorable Supreme. So, contribution of Veer Savarkar was extremely, immensely high. Then, although you cannot compare each revolutionary patriot, because even every revolutionary is a patriot, but Veer Savarkar's greatness is very wonderful.
One thing comes to my mind. At that time, the number of total British people in India were around 50,000 or 1 lakh, or not more than that.
Must be 1
So,
lakh actually.
or including soldiers and civilian government and residents,
हाँ
everything.
हाँ हाँ हाँ
And,
जी.
at that time, there was British India and princely states.
Yes, that's right. When they
The
left,
prince they left, and in during Veer Savarkar period also the situation was same.
I think it should be the same, but it didn't come to the notice of anybody because nobody thought of. Everybody was thinking of one India. That is all. And some part of the India was still under the rulers of the princes or their descendants. And Sardar Patel united, abolished all the princely states in India, while Nehru created his own dynasty to rule the country.
If we go back to Savarkar period, so
Huh,
that time there were princely states and they had
huh.
soft corner toward British. So
That is right.
there was no collecting point against British at that time.
No, no,
So
no.
these revolutionaries were isolated and they were working as a one-person team or one
No,
person
no.
soldier.
They either belong to the British India or to some state, but they had their unanimous opinion about independence of India. That is all. The
That's okay.
revolutionary.
But what I meant to say is that 50,000 people, it is very easy to drive them out with 30 crore people. So why
It
didn't
is
that
just a
happen?
matter of. No. Pradeepji, it was a very difficult proposition to hand out. Whenever a man raised a slogan in favor of India, he was tie hands down. I tell you in this way, when Son Singh Pakna, he was in USA. He went to a shop and asked for a job. The shopkeeper told that you have come from India? Yes. Your country is under the is a slave country under the British? He said yes. Can I, instead of asking for, you are now 30 crore people? And what number there is, maybe 1 lakh or 2 lakh or 5 lakhs? Can I, yes. Can I, you take the gun from me, not job, and shoot them out? And that is what the idea of the Gadar patriots was, to ask the armies to revolt against the British government and to run away and to kill them. So it was, if the armies had revolted, that was a very good proposition. But even single individual or even joint individual, 50 together, they couldn't do anything. Now take Bhagat Singh's example. When he was threw a bomb in the assembly hall in 1929, April 29. After all, there were all British all over, and so many Indians were there. They were silent that way. The British people were armed with full weapons, and we had no one, nothing in our hands.
How many Indian soldiers were employed by British?
A large number of employees was Indians. Only their
What
heads
were,
were Britishers.
so what could be that number, approximate number of soldiers?
Supposing, supposing one unit had 200 soldiers, one unit. There were 5 or 6 British officers, remaining all were Indians.
And how many units were there at that time?
Maybe hundreds.
Maybe 100. Or maybe more than that.
More than that. Combining all the services, 3 services, Navy, Army, and Air Force.
At that time, there were no good communication means also. So everybody was trying to struggle in his own way, and there was no gathering point. And this 1857 mutiny gave some point. Mutiny gave some point.
Some jolts to the British, and for some lessons for the future generations.
Indeed. Right, sir. Thank you for your time for today.